So today for SOS, we have a fabulous panel. You know what? How about you test your mic to make sure it's working for the record, and you go down the line and introduce yourself. But you know what, Mayra, I'm going to let you start.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I have not had my coffee yet, so I have that respite voice still. I've been up for hours. Mayra Casillo. I officially work as the supervisor for the migrant education program under the Chester County Intermediate Unit. And I volunteer with Casa Guanajuato. I'm the secretary for Casa Guanajuato. I've been a member since 2008. And that's primarily what I want to talk to you about today. But I'm also in a couple of other boards. One is with housing, and the other one is with scholarships under health for specifically looking for minority students.
Oh, take that back from you. You and I are sharing.
Karen doesn't share well with others.
Share with Myron, but not you.
My name is Keith Burress. I work at Family Service of Chester County. I'm program director there, and I'm on the board of Orion Communities, former board president. And I'm also on the Community Coalition Board.
Good morning. My name is Emily Abels. I'm a Community Foundation board member and a lawyer in Kennett Square. I'm also have experience on a couple of other boards, particularly school-related, and faith-based organizations. And I'm excited to be with you all this morning. Oh, you guys.
It's hard.
I'm used to sharing.
You are. You are.
So what if we learned today Karen doesn't share and Emily is an overshare? So Emily's a quick one to have.
She's going to run around to give it to everybody.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Erik Gudmundson with Pegasus Technologies. We do IT services and cybersecurity for small businesses and nonprofit organizations. But when I'm not wearing my work hat, I serve on the boards of the Chester County Community Foundation, the Chester County Workforce Development Board, and in my past lives, I've served on boards of the Southern Chester County Chamber of Commerce and the Tech Forum of Delaware. Every board, whether it's a for-profit board, a membership board, or a nonprofit board, has a unique flavor to it. So I'm happy to continue the discussion.
Good morning. I'm Timmy Nelson. I'm actually retired until Karen says no longer retired. I serve as the outreach advisor for the Chester County Community Foundation. In addition to that, I serve on a number of different boards. My background is human resources and government relations.
Does anybody know Timmy already? Uh-huh. 3 years ago, I didn't know Timmy, and he has changed our lives. Thank goodness. So for today, you can see recruiting, developing, retaining, growing. Now, throughout today, you will see these 7 board duties at every workshop you go to. These are from the National Center on Nonprofit Boards in DC that changed its name years ago. I'm too old to remember. It's Board Source or something. But pretty much all the workshops we have are about these topics. The question at hand is, how do we recruit and develop younger, more diverse board members so that they can do all these things? And that's the question of the day. Now, as we look at it, so many times people come to us at the Community Foundation, Stephanie and I get the calls, and Jason and everybody, is where do we find younger board members who look different than we do? That's the leading question, right? Well, that's not where we start. We actually start with the self-reflection part, because the where is sort of like the pain. So really, the question is not just where do you find them, because then you slap people on your board and, my God, they're like causing trouble and they're saying different things and their meeting times, that they got to pick up kids at daycare or, whatever. So, or wait, you meet during the day at lunchtime? Don't you know people work? Oh, wait, you're all retired. Okay, sorry. So you find folks, but then they're not staying, or they're not rising to leadership, or they rise to leadership and then stuff happens. I never know where that would happen, Mayra. So we'll actually start with the self-reflection. We say, are you really, really ready different looking, different age, different ideas throughout the organization, not just on your board, but when you look at the governance of your programs and services, the way you send out your messaging, how you're marketing, how you're fundraising, who you're fundraising from, who you're paying to do your work, your vendors, your staff, your partners, and all the people whose faces folks see. So really the question is, are you truly ready? What are we doing now, self-reflection and self-assessment? What are we doing now that helps promote diversity in all levels and sizes and shapes? What can be done to make it even better? Where is it working well in our organization and best practices? There's some amazing stuff going on in Phoenixville that, sorry, Winnie, Oxford needs to understand. So there's some partnerships and collaborations in some parts of the county that are huge and some impediments in other parts of the county, and we got to do some best practice sharing. So we say do some self-examination and then figure out what works well and doesn't in trying to get people and cultivate and recruit them. And then once you've gotten them, how do you orient them and train them, and how do you transition them to positions of leadership, right? Those are our big questions, because you can just find them by crossing the street and tapping somebody's shoulder, but that doesn't mean they're ready or they're keepers. So that is what today's focus is. You got other handouts in your book. I don't care about them right now. If they get to be interesting enough for the conversation, we'll put them up and talk about them. But this is where I want you to tell some stories. So we're going to just open it. Emily, pick that mic up and be ready to share it, okay? Erik and Timmy, good luck. So, what do you see? You're recruited to boards, you're helping recruit folks all the time. What are your thoughts on how to find, recruit, retain, and figure out if the organization is ready? Where has it worked well? And what are lessons we've learned? Anybody? Yeah.
I'm always one of the ones to go first. That way I get it all out and then they follow. So I still think I'm 21, despite my white hair. My body tells me otherwise. But I still think I'm very young. I love to network, and I love being at events just like these, where I often find myself to be one of the minorities. I've been working for over 20 years in higher education, and whenever I went to trainings, I was always one of the very few Latina women in the room. It used to be there'd be Puerto Rican women or Puerto Rican men or other ethnicities, but very few did Hispanic women or men in the room. So I'd always find myself looking for the other people that kind of look like me, always making that bad assumption too that Mexican people or Hispanic people are supposed to look like the way I look. That's also my wrong assumption. But over 20, 30 years that I've been in this country, I have often found myself in places like this where I get here and then I feel uncomfortable because I feel like I don't belong, because what am I doing here if I'm one of the few? And it's taken me 30 years, even though I'm 25, to realize that what I have to say does matter and that my presence here is important. I've recently started to call myself a door opener because I've had to knock on a lot of doors, and I've had trials and tribulations and getting into work, getting into jobs, leaving jobs because I have not felt comfortable, and eventually, leading a somewhat leadership position. So now I'm a supervisor with the migrant education program, and I come to this building once a month, and I'm still one of the minorities, and I go back to my office and I see a group of 5 women that I lead, mostly Mexican, 1 Puerto Rican, and we're rising the next generation of people in this country. We have a task. Our task is to help the new migrants that are coming in. I came into this country 30 years ago, not speaking English, and now here I am with a bachelor's and a master's degree, something that I never would have thought that I would have been able to accomplish when I first arrived in the country at the age of 12. So now I'm back in the community, opening doors for these young men and women. But I was one of the first ones in my community, and I know that there are others in my community who did the same thing that I did, but there had to be opportunities for us. We had to find mentors, such as Karen, who could help us in understanding the whole college process and getting into college and staying in college and graduating from college and continuing, whatever else we wanted above college. Some of us didn't want we want to be mothers and husbands and wives. We wanted other things to improve our community. And so I love networking because I love to ask questions as to how people got to where they are. And then I pass that message along to the next generations of students that I'm working with and that I'm working for. But it's taken me a long time to get here because I've had to knock on doors and feel uncomfortable and feel like I don't belong, and then go back and reshuffle and come back and say, no, what I have to say does matter and is very important. But it's also up to you to decide if what you're doing matters and it's important and who it's important for. And who are you serving? Who do you serve? Who is the population that you serve? Because it is an ever-changing population. Now, it does depend on where you live, where you work, or what you do, but it is changing. It's changing from when I got here 30 years ago, and it's going to continue to change, whether we like it or not. So just think of that. Who do you serve? Why do you serve them? And why would that matter for you to change the dynamics of your leadership so that the voices that sometimes are not heard are heard, and then we can listen to other voices and hear what they need and what they want. With Casa Guanajuato, we do get grant funding from Hadley. Casa Guanajuato is a nonprofit organization. We do arts, we do culture, we do music, we do dancing, we do folkloric dancing. We're trying to be more inclusive now because it's not just the Mexican community. Now we have folks from Guatemala, from Venezuela, El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua, all these other places that are coming south of the border. And so it's not just about Mexican dancing. We have to be more inclusive. So we recently celebrated Hispanic Heritage Month instead of Cinco de Mayo. Cinco de Mayo to me has always been about margaritas and beer and tacos. And it's not really about the history of what happened in Puebla, in a state in Mexico. It's about how do we celebrate Cinco de Mayo? So we moved away from that. Now we're celebrating Hispanic heritage to be more inclusive of those communities that don't have a place where they can go and they feel like they belong. So we have music, we have art, we have dancing. And so I'm very appreciative of the foundation because we've been able to get money through Hadley to be able to do the work that we do. I'm a volunteer. I actually pay $35 a year to belong to Casa Guanajuato. We have a board, we have a president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, and then we have members. We have about 25 members, and with 25 members, we've been able to have a Cinco de Mayo with over 10,000 people in the town of Kennett, which is close to what the Mushroom Festival does, with a much larger funding, with many more volunteers. We do usually use volunteers, about 100 volunteers from the community, a lot of students that are volunteers and other members as well. So we're always looking for people, and somehow we figure it out, and sometimes we get 5, 10, and sometimes we do get 100 volunteers. And it's because we ask. We're constantly asking for the help because we know we can't do it.